Looks like we should be in store for some big changes at Georgia. Some things have to change here. If you can only bring in the fourth best recruiting class in the country, I think that the decline is obvious. We got Palmer Toms on the line to break down Georgia's recruiting class for 2021. Palmer, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy one here in Athens. Started off the day with first signing around 7:30 this morning, and it's been constant news and up until we just got off the Zoom with Kirby Smart right before this. So it's been a busy day. Georgia ends the day with 20 signees. They started with 20 commits, and they end up dropping one and picking up another. So a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, the man knows how to recruit. He knows how to stock a roster, no question about that. And they have near the best in Athens. So let's get to the news of the day regarding the positives and the negatives concerning those guys that we're announcing today.
Yeah, I think, in football, it really starts at the quarterback position, and Georgia got a great one in five-star quarterback Brock Vandagriff. Right down the road at Prince Avenue Christian Academy. In Bogart, Georgia, about 20 minutes from the Georgia football facility in the heart of Athens. And so, I think that's a relationship that Brock has been a big part of building this class. He committed, earlier in the summer and signed today. He was formally committed to Oklahoma, ended up decommitting from there, commits to Georgia. And when you can't get recruits on campus for games and interacting with coaches, and you can't do anything in person, having your quarterback and your, one of your top commits and top signees in Athens all the time is a great selling point, because, you can have recruits come to Athens and they can meet Brock, and Brock can show them around. Brock can, kind of be the spokesperson for the class. And so, I think that's a big selling point for Georgia this year. Kirby Smart said it today. They bring in a ton of talent from the state of Georgia. I believe they got 7 of the top 10 and maybe 8 of the top 11. Those numbers might be a little bit off, but they brought in a ton of talent. They got the top 3 guys from the state in Amarius Mims, Brock Vandagriff, and Smile Munden. The thinking behind that is probably the fact that COVID affects the way that recruiting happens, but also Smart mentioned having your quarterback in Athens and that, kind of focal point of the recruiting class in Athens to help recruit. That's got to be a big part in it. So I think Georgia fans are really excited about what Brock Vandagriff can bring to the table. He's a more of a mobile guy. He's got a strong arm. He's leading his team. Goes to a small school in Georgia. They're playing for I believe they're in the semifinals right now, state semifinals. So he's still alive in the playoffs. He's focused on that, but he will be early enrolling at Georgia come January. So, I think it's always a positive when you can get those quarterbacks on campus for spring ball, assuming that it happens. And, in Georgia's case, who knows about JT Daniels, whether he'll be back or not. I think the thought is that he will be, but if not, you got to begin preparing a guy to be the starter against Clemson. So I think having Brock be the kind of the leader in this class and having him come to campus in January, and that's going to be something that Kirby Smart's really excited about, and Georgia fans certainly are excited to see what he can do.
Got Palmer Toms on the line from Dogs 247 Sports. Kirby Smart just hit the podium to discuss the 2021 class that's currently ranked number 3 in the SEC, number 4 in the country. That usually falls right in line with the SEC grabbing the top spots. And for 2021, are there any loose ends out there, whether it be for the rest of the day or most likely toward the first Wednesday in February?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a ton left for the day. Kirby Smart said that he wasn't sure what we had, but they had everything that they expected. And so I think, getting the 20 signees today was big, and that's probably all you'll see out of Georgia in this early signing period. I think that there's a potential that they could be in the running for Corey Foreman, the number 1 player in the country out of California, who's announcing his commitment between USC, Clemson, and Georgia on January 2nd. I think, most people are leaning towards USC there, that he'll stay out west. But that's something that Georgia fans are certainly going to keep an eye on. But I think looking towards February, I think the biggest concern, and Kirby Smart said it today, is that he wants to add another defensive lineman to this class. He called them, the big guys in the middle. He wants to have at least two of those run-stopping defensive linemen in the middle. And everything really relates back to recruiting. You look at Georgia's 2018 signing class that was Kirby Smart's first number one class since he was in Athens. Jordan Davis has been one of the biggest players from that team and from that class, and literally and figuratively. And there's a good chance that he goes pro after this year. I think that there's a lot of guys that have an opportunity to go pro in 3 years after that signing in 2018. And so, I think you've got to fill the pieces there. You've got to fill the spots. And so, they did sign one big defensive tackle, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins out of Gaffney, South Carolina. He comes in at 6'5", nearly 300 pounds. So I think he's got a lot of potential to play in the middle, but Georgia wants to get another one. In terms of the defensive linemen that they have on the table, Marlon Dean is 6'6", but he's only 265. So I don't know that, he's a big run-stopping force in the middle. They've got some defensive ends in Jonathan Jefferson, who was the first signee of the day, 6'4", 255. But again, he's not going to be plugging gaps in the middle and eating double teams. And so, I think that would be one area that they would want to hit in February. And Kirby Smart said that today. So, I think that's something that's worth watching. But I think you've also got to consider with this class and these, where we're at in college football now is the fact that you very well may have a one-time transfer rule, come into place for next season. And so, coaches are going to keep some of those initial counters in these classes, and save those for guys that could help out that come from the transfer portal. So I think that's another area where you can watch, come February is, a lot of those guys that have made their decisions that they're going to leave their current school and hit the portal, after bowl season wraps up in December and January. And, that the recruiting doesn't just focus on high school kids after this early signing period is over. It focuses on other college kids and getting guys out of the portal. So I think defensive line is a position that Georgia wants to hit. And, that could be via the portal or via a February signee.
Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. We're breaking down the Bulldogs top 5 recruiting class. Stands right now number 3 in the SEC, number 4 nationally. That's a 247 ranking. We got Palmer Toms on the line and would invite you to, of course, head on over to Dogs 247, check out his work and everybody else with their recruiting, and look at the Bulldogs as they head toward a bowl game here to be announced on Sunday. And of course, subscribe, like the videos here, and share the videos out on social media. Not everyone knows that we're here every day talking college football. As you look down the list, we could be here for hours trying to dissect all this talent. So I'll ask that you kind of pick and choose and go through the storylines and the particular players that may not be necessarily at the top of the board, but the guys that you really like based on the tape that you've seen, the scouting reports, and maybe some interesting anecdotes.
Yeah, Kirby Smart's a defensive guy, and he hit defense hard in this class. Two positions that I think were really important to make up some ground for are at outside linebacker and linebacker in general, and in the secondary as well. You look at what Georgia has on their roster now at the outside linebacker room. It's a very stacked room with Azeez Ojulari, Jermaine Johnson, Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson, and MJ Sherman, who was a highly rated recruit last year that signed and hasn't seen a ton of action. Well, there's a good chance that Ojulari heads to the draft. Jermaine Johnson announced that he's hitting the transfer portal yesterday, which obviously doesn't mean that he's leaving Georgia, but something that he's considering. And so you're going to be losing probably one or two guys at that position and outside linebacker. So, and then you look at inside, losing Monty Rice more than likely, senior inside linebacker who has been one of the leaders on this defense. I think hitting the linebacker position, they didn't sign an inside linebacker last year, so that becomes even more important this year. Well, they attacked that with Xavier Story and Smile Munden, as well as Chaz Chambliss, and a couple other guys as well. Chambliss is a guy who's up for the high school butt kiss award. One of 5 finalists there. And interestingly enough, he's one of 3 out of the Peach State. Just goes to show the amount of talent that is in Kirby Smart's backyard right here. But picking up a guy like him, he was one of the earlier commits in the summer, and then Smile Munden earlier in late November, early December, and Xavier Sori today. Those are 2 guys between Munden and Sori. Those are 2 5-stars. Sori being the top ranked linebacker in the country. So it's always important to add those kind of guys. Kirby Smart's really high on the athleticism of Xavier Sori, said that he's probably going to be a developmental piece, which, it says a lot about someone that's ranked as a 5-star. If they're a developmental piece, and they've certainly got to have a lot of other, attributes that are earning them that, ranking. So I don't know exactly how he's going to be a developmental piece, but he certainly has the athleticism, the size, the speed to be a factor, in his college career. Same with Smile Munden. Munden being from Paulding County here in Georgia, number 3 player in the state. Like I mentioned, they really attacked the Peach State really hard. And so, getting him on board was big for Georgia. And then I mentioned the secondary. You look at Georgia's roster right now at cornerback, you've got Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell, DJ Daniel. Those 3 guys all could head to the NFL after this year. At safety, you've got Richard LeCount, who's likely headed to the NFL as well. So, you're probably losing 4 players in the secondary. And so they hit that with Nyland Green, who's the number 8 player in the state, 9 player in the state of Georgia, out of Covington, Georgia. He's a cornerback that's going to come on board and was a big prospect for the Bulldogs. David Daniel, who's likely to play safety. He's the number 10 player in the state. He's coming on as well. And then you look at the other guys that they bring in, Kamari Lassiter who's originally from Georgia, from Savannah area, but went and played high school ball in Tuscaloosa. To be able to pull somebody out of Tuscaloosa, American Christian school there, number 8 player in the state of Alabama, number 18 cornerback. He's on board, as well as Javon Bullard, who's out of the state of Georgia as well. So, like I've said several times tonight, they hit the state of Georgia really hard, and it shows there in the secondary. I think that that's another position that they could look at in the transfer portal. If you want to, get an experienced guy, you don't want to start a true freshman at corner, because, you look at who Georgia's probably trotting out there at corner, and it's probably going to be Keely Ringo, who was the top signee that Georgia had last year, hasn't gotten to play at all this year because he had a torn labrum. So he's essentially going to be a true freshman next year, playing his first, snaps of college ball. You probably don't want to be trotting out 2 guys that are playing their first snaps of college ball at corner in the SEC. And so I think that's another position that Georgia could look to hit the transfer portal pretty hard.
Palmer, you talk like there's actually a decent football program in Tuscaloosa that you might be trying to fight a recruit over. I don't really understand that. But Palmer Thomas is on the line. He typically knows what he's talking about from Dogs 247 Sports. And Palmer, we know you're running in 18 different directions. Just got back from the Kirby Smart news conference, so we appreciate you stopping by to break down another stellar class for Kirby Smart.
Always happy to talk Georgia football with you, Mark.